Okay, this is part two. I just uploaded part one, uh, and so I'm not going to review that here. I'm just going to press on uh, while I'm on the roll here and thinking about this. So, just a quick review. I said that this third view of Daniel's 70 weeks has the first half of the week being the earthly ministry of Jesus, starting with his baptism, ending with his crucifixion. Then we have the midweek period, which is the 1,000 years millennial reign, where Jesus reigns in heaven, which we're in right now, according to this view. Uh, and he, he's, he's sitting on the throne, but in heaven, not ruling here on earth. And and then we're somewhere, the present is somewhere here. And then the second half of the week is yet somewhere in the future, maybe soon, maybe not so soon. And and then that's the end here, and eternity is after here. And so that's a quickie review. So given that, I start trying to relate other passages outside of Daniel and see how those fit. And I did a little bit of that previous video on Revelation to show. And the reason I had to do that is I mentioned that this seems Daniel's week is for his people. So this Daniel isn't going to talk about this period because this is the church era. And so he's not talking about that. Where Revelation looks back on the whole thing at the end of Revelation and does talk about that. So so there's a reason Daniel doesn't talk about this, and so I had to go outside of Daniel to elaborate on what that might be. So given that, I'm going to also look at the Olivet Discourse, mainly Matthew's version, and other passages in Revelation. And the idea is this ends with these things here being fulfilled, where the other two views that's problematic because they either had said the 70th week was fulfilled 2,000 years ago or nearabouts, and these things only applied to the Jews. It was the end of the Jewish era, so to speak, or that 2,000 years is yet to be in the future and it's after the end of the 70th week. Both of those are problematic with this, where this seems, in this third view, is Jesus comes back, all these are accomplished, and then we enter eternity. So let me jump more into this. And so we read here, on the wings of abominations will come one who makes desolate until a complete destruction, one that is decreed, is poured out on the one who makes desolate. So the one who makes desolate is destroyed at the end here. So here it seems like the period where he makes things desolate. And abomination seems to be at the commencement of that. And so we see that same expression, abomination of desolation, in the Matthew discourse. And the abomination of desolation, which was spoken by the prophet Daniel, so that's what links this and that. This is the only place in Daniel he talks about it, I think, or at least it's one of the only places. And here Jesus links it to that. Standing in the holy place, let the reader understand. So here he's standing in the holy place. And so some people think that means that the temple has to be rebuilt. But then there's the other view that the temple is the church. This body, our bodies are the temple, and the Holy Spirit dwells in our bodies as believers. And that sort of implies that maybe the rapture is here, because that standing in the holy place, that means that there's something, the holy place could be the temple, but the temple could, if the temple is the church, it kind of implies the church isn't there any longer. The church is gone, and in place of that is the abomination desolation, which was spoken through Daniel, prophet, standing in the holy place. So this abomination, it's not the Antichrist, it's the abomination is standing in the holy place. So what in the world might that mean? It sort of sounds like there's something false that's standing in place of the true church, a misrepresentation or an impersonation. And so one way to interpret that is, if there is the rapture here, and those that are taken are not there anymore, then something fills that void. Nature hates a vacuum. Something fills that, and it's the abomination that causes desolation. And so with that view, let's see if other passages kind of shed more light on that. So let me just. So here's Matthew 24. It says, "The gospel of the kingdom shall be preached to the whole world as a testimony to all nations, and then the end will come." So if this is the crucifixion, or maybe Palm Sunday, or that period of time, and this is the abomination, and we're in this period now, this is the period where the gospel shall be preached to the whole world. It takes a while to do that. It's been almost 2,000 years since then, getting pretty close. So, and the gospel has sort of gone out over the whole world. There's no place it hasn't gone. And so, and with modern technology like the internet and all that, it's even more able to go out through the whole world. So that seems to fit. So let's go look up here, and the abomination seems to fit here, is that because we read here, when the 1,000 years are completed, Satan will be released from his prison. So that sort of fits this abomination idea. The abomination is kind of connected to Satan being released from his prison. And his prison is, we read where he's like Revelation, and he will come to this. Oh, I'll just keep reading there. And will come out to deceive the nations which are in the four corners of the earth, Gog Magog, to gather them together for the war. The number of them is like the sands on the seashore. So so this is sort of like the Battle of Armageddon. It culminates here. And those that put that after Jesus comes back, after 1,000-year reign, there's like two events. One is before he comes back, and the other is 1,000 years later. And that view pops up in the Bible at Revelation 20, almost at the end of the book. It's sort of like a sequel. We have the New Testament, and they're going to have the New Testament after that, a whole new 1,000-year reign, which little is said, it seems, in the Bible about. So it's like a whole New Testament's needed to describe that. Or it's talking about it's talking about this period here, and the end of this 1,000 years here. So I just think just the plain reading of the scriptures seems to suggest that this is talking about the second half of the week. And many interpreters put the abomination at the middle of the week. So there's some support for that. So, and then we see, unless those days had been cut short. Oh, and then it says, going from Matthew, for then there will be great tribute. So we had the gospel going out to the whole world. We have the abomination. Here we have, for then there will be a great tribulation. That's this period here, it seems to be. such as has not occurred since the beginning of the world, nor now, nor ever will be. And so this seems like a really bad time, the worst time in history. And at the end of that, we see all these things: to finish transgression, to make end of sin, seal up vision, prophecy, all that. It culminates with that here in the second coming and in eternity. So that seems to fit. And it being cut short, I'll get to that later, what that means. But it's like Jesus seems to say he ends it just in the nick of time. Things are so I don't know exactly what that means. Now, but so here we get to this: wherever the corpse is, there the vulture will gather. And that's been a kind of a cryptic passage that Bible scholars have puzzled over. But that goes back to what I was saying earlier. If this idea of the abomination, what is that abomination? And this standing in the holy place. Where was that? We'll come back desolate. Let's see, where's that? The holy place. Oh, where is that? Put stop to sacrificing grain offerings. Somewhere. Oh, at any rate, I can't. Where is that? I'll see it when later on it'll come. Like, duh, why not see it? But anyway, so the corpse and the vulture. So the vulture eats the corpse. So if the corpse is what's left of the church after the rapture, let's say, then there's the vulture there that will gather. And we read, like in Revelation something, I forget where, it talks about how the male child is snatched up into heaven, which kind of sounds like the rapture, and because the beast, the dragon, is trying to devour it. So it seems to fit that kind of language, and the male child seems to be for Jesus, but also that we be reigning with Christ we're part of the male child, that we reign with him. So that seems to imply that and the being snatched up, Jesus did ascend to heaven, but he wasn't snatched up so that he wouldn't be devoured by the devil. That seems not to apply to Jesus. It seems more to apply to the church here. So if the male child is both Christ and his church, and we reign with him now, and you might think, well, when we reign with him, some people just died recently. They haven't been reigning over this 1,000 years. But we read about the parable of the workers, that the worker that worked in the 11th hour got the same wages as the one who worked for the full time. So even if you show up late, you're part of the we are part of the whole reign, regardless whether we start our period was here or here or here. Nobody lives the whole 1,000 years. So wherever you show up, you're reigning with him. He's in heaven. We're his ambassadors here. So ambassadors are part of the government. So that seems to fit. So what is this vultures gathering and devouring the corpse? And it's sort of like, well, if there's the church is raptured, and people think, well, it's a secret rapture or not. The scripture doesn't talk about that. But whether it's secret or not, let's just say for argument's sake, it's not secret. It's some visible event happens where the heavens somehow part, or something that the whole world could see. That doesn't necessarily mean people could all agree on what it is, what happened. Some people might think, oh, this was a meteor that happened, almost hit us, or something else. Or so there could be, and if it's a cataclysmic event, it's kind of hard to count noses to see if anybody's missing. I mean, think of Katrina in New Orleans, where all those people were displaced. If some people were missing, it would take weeks and months maybe to figure out that they are missing, or that they just kind of dropped off the grid, but they may still be around. But that could be even more difficult if the devil comes down and we're entering this great period of tribulation, deceptions, and maybe some sort of impersonation of the church of some sort. I mean, we see that the devil could appear as an angel of light, and we've seen that angels could appear like humans back in Genesis. And if devils are demons or devils or whatever are fallen angels, maybe they too could appear like humans. And so maybe there's a disinformation campaign of sorts that even hides the fact that there was a rapture. There's something that happened, so I'm just speculating here. I don't know what that passage means, but I'm just looking at what it seems to imply, that the vulture devours the corpse. The corpse is dead because it's the soul of the corpse. In biblical terms, death means the soul leaves the body. It just leaves a lifeless body behind. So this lifeless body seems to be the church. You might call it the left behind part of the church. So the point is not that I'm spot on and that's what that means. The point is that so far passages seem to line up that don't seem to contradict this view. So doesn't prove it, but doesn't contradict it either. And then we say, and then the sign of the Son of Man will appear in the sky, and all the tribes of the earth will mourn, and they will see some man coming, clouds of glory with power and great glory. And so that seems to be at the end here. Oh, and let me go here, but immediately after the tribulation. So if this is tribulation, that puts it here. After the tribulation, the sun will be darkened, and the moon will not give its light, and the stars will fall from the sky, and the powers of heaven will be shaken. So that could be the destruction of the one who is poured out on the one who makes desolate. So it kind of agrees there. The powers of the heavens will be shaken. And the heavens, we read about the dragon being kicked out of heaven into earth, and his time is short, and things like that. So, and he will send forth his angels, a great trumpet, and gather together his elect from the four winds, and from one end of the sky to the other. So that's sort of like Rapture 2, maybe. This is Rapture 1, where the male child is raptured, but we see that what's left behind is the woman's other offspring that seems to be left behind. And so what happens to what no one's, and then at the end, everyone who wasn't raptured here seems to be raised here. So there's a confusion because some people think this refers to the rapture. It might in one sense, but there may be different phases to that. And then we look at this. He broke the sixth seal, and there was a great earthquake. The sun became black, and the sackcloth made hair, and the whole moon became like blood. Let's see. And the stars and the skies fell to the earth as a fig tree. So it seems like the sixth seal might be towards the end here. So we go through. But it could be that it's here, and this time here is sort of talked about here as one event, just as this, you might think, well, here's 1,000 years. Well, it's also a day. So here's 7 years, and there's one day in the middle, which happens to be 1,000 years long, and there's these events. So it's kind of hard to place things here. So anyway, but the days are cut short. So stars fell. So what was that? Days have been cut short. Okay, I'm not sure why I made that connection there. So let me move to my next chart here, where I go into more details about this second half of the week. He will speak out against the Most High. Here's Daniel. Wear down the saints of the highest one. He will intend to make alterations in the times and the law, and they will be given to his hand for times and half a time. And so that seems to be 3.5 years where he makes war down with the saints. Those saints, perhaps, are the woman's other offspring. I heard the man dressed in linen who was, this is Daniel 12:7, above the waters of the river, as he raised his right hand and left hand toward heaven and swore by him who lives forever, it would be times and a half. As soon as they finish shattering the power of the holy people, all these events will be accomplished. And so that seems to fit this period, the second half of the week. In Revelation 12, but the 2 wings of the great eagle were given to the woman so that she could fly into the wilderness to her place where she was nourished for times and a half, presence of the serpent. So the serpent came down, the woman, whatever that refers to, and to me, it seems to be, perhaps it relates to wisdom, because we read about wisdom as Lady Wisdom in Proverbs. Wisdom, Lady Wisdom, she speaks in the streets. And so wisdom, and I'll probably have to make another video of why wisdom is spoken here, because we read about like the 10 virgins, 5 are foolish, 5 are wise. And then we read about the wise heed rebukes, which implies the foolish reject rebukes. And so that might have something to do with all this, but I'll defer that to another video. From the time of the regular sacrifices abolished and the abomination of desolation is set up. Oh, wait, not from the time of the regular sacrifices abolished, and, that's important, not to, but and the abomination of desolation is set up as 1290 days. So let me go back. So it talks about those days being cut short. So if there's 1260 days, and there's 30 days, and we have this 45 days, that's 1335 days. Maybe this is the days being cut short, these 30 days, where instead of Jesus coming back here, he comes back a little early. At least all flesh is destroyed. So that's how it works there. So now I'm not saying that's what it means. I don't know what it means. I'm just guessing. Rather, I'm just looking at passages and saying, might they, given this interpretation, how these things might play into those. Leave out the court which is outside the temple, and do not measure it, for it has been given to the nations, and they will tread underfoot the holy city 42 months. And so the outer court, I don't know exactly what that means, but the Gentiles, it seems to go back to, if the church was raptured, what's left is the outer court. Maybe, I don't know. I have to think some more about that. And I will grant authority to my 2 witnesses, and they will prophesy for 1262 days in sackcloth. Now, some people put that in the first half of the week, but I think it fits in the second half of the week, because at the end of that, the beast that comes from the abyss destroys the 2, but only after they've finish their job. It's not when they. So when they finish their work, then they're taken out. They will be given him a mouth speaking arrogant words, blasphemies, and authority to act for 42 months was given. So that seems to be that second half of the week. Revelation 12:6. Then the woman fled into the wilderness, and there a place prepared by God, so she would be nourished for 1,260 days. That's this period here. So, and then we have, but immediately after the tribulation, I already did that. The days. So this is the period where the stars will not fall, and the sky powers roll back. It could be the six seals here. And this is the seven vials and the seven trumpets and all this. I don't know. And the Son of Man will appear in the sky. Or I think I've covered all those. So this kind of covers this idea of the days being cut short. So at any rate, I think I'll end the video here. And once again, I don't know if any of these are correct. Me connecting the dots. If I've connected the dots correctly, here are the dots, and then hear me trying to connect the dots. Rather, I'm seeing if this seems it might be plausible. Now, there's some problems that one might raise, and I'm going to have to defer that to another video because this video is getting kind of long. So let me end this here. Let me see if there's anything else. No, I kind of covered this section here. There's lots of other things here you can see that I haven't covered. So I'll defer those to another video. So let me end here. So this is part 2 of the annual 70 weeks.